How was that day?
Well, I mean, any musician would cut their arm off to experience such a thing once in their career. Such a huge global phenomenon where your name is read out by a superstar in front of a billion people, and you get to experience that enormous amount of energy and goodwill there was in that stadium that day, and also stick it to all the people who have told you you'd never amount to anything or go and get a proper job.
Watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm joined on this evening's podcast by guitarist, producer, and songwriter Kevin Armstrong. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Steve.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Okay, well, I spent the weekend reading your book. That's a great read
Thank you.
with some good stories in there. Some laugh out loud moments, especially the status quo moment.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we start at the beginning. Can you recall your early entry into music? Who influenced you?
My parents were into music. They always had lots of records. There was music playing in the house, and my mother was a musician. My grandfather was a musician. Her father, he was a
Yeah,
drummer and a sax player in a dance band in the 20s. She was a piano player and sang light opera and won piano competitions as a girl. So there was music in the family.
yeah.
Dad was completely tone deaf, but there was a lot of jazz music played in the house, and a lot of the radio was on a lot. So
Oh,
music was
good.
around all the time. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think that I remember the Beatles from an early age, and I remember listening to the pirate radio stations and in the 60s.
yeah.
Those were the things that caught my ear. Yeah.
You played piano in the early days.
I did, yes. I learned classical piano for a few years, yeah, until
Yeah.
the guitar kind of superseded it in my in my heart, really. And so I let the piano lapse, which is a bit sad, really. I should have carried it on, but I didn't, because I found that the guitar was much more. Well, I mean, you just get a lot more kudos, and it opens a lot more doors
Yeah,
straight away.
yeah.
You know.
And talking of doors, I mean the story in your book, which I really love, in Abbey Road, spring 1985. Are you able to tell me that one?
Well, yeah, it's well documented. I mean, I got a call from an A&R man at EMI saying, "Go to Abbey Road and just take your guitar along, and you can thank me later." And it was a secret session for David Bowie. He wasn't supposed to be in the country. We weren't told who we were there to play for. Who We just turned up with our instruments, and he bowled in and introduced himself, and
Wow.
rather redundantly, because we obviously knew who he was.
Yeah,
And then that day was a life changing day, because we did demos for the film Absolute Beginners, including the song Absolute Beginners, and knocked it into shape there and then, at the end of the session. And I think that's what led on to a relationship that lasted 10 years with him,
yeah,
and still
great.
continues to this day. In fact.
Yeah, great. And also then after that, Live Aid. I mean, how was that? How was that day?
Well, I mean, any musician would cut their arm off to experience such a thing once in their career. Such a
Yeah,
huge global phenomenon where your name is read out by a superstar in front of a billion people, and you get to experience that enormous amount of energy and goodwill there was in that stadium that day, and around the world, and also stick it to all the people who have told you you'd never amount to anything or go and get a proper job.
watch this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um, I mean, all the other acts on there as well. And you, in your book, you speak about the moment with Freddie Mercury on stage. I mean, you were actually stood on stage or in
We
backstage
were sides at the side of the
at the
stage. Yeah,
side
we
of the
we
stage.
could see clearly, from the side across the stage, watched that iconic performance by Queen, and
Yeah,
I think none of us knew how resonant maybe it would be, but the feeling of it was extremely powerful. You just thought, this is a guy really at the top of his game, and this whole stadium is just lifting off at this point.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he is incredible.
I saw him later at a later date, when I was on a date with Bowie, recording in Switzerland, in Montreux,
Yeah.
and the jazz festival, the famous Montreux Jazz Festival,
So,
which got nothing to
yeah,
do with jazz really anymore, but it
no.
was on, and the control room for the studio Bowie recorded a lot of stuff in belonged to Queen, and it was just off in a corridor in the Montreux Casino, which is one of the venues that the jazz festival used commonly. And so Queen happened to be doing a set at the Montreux Jazz Festival just outside, literally feet from the door of the studio.
Yeah.
So I sneaked into the gallery on my own and looked over the audience and Queen and watched them play at that point as well. And it was just stunning to watch Freddie Mercury on stage. I mean, there's not many
No.
frontmen could see they're
No.
quite so great. Yeah.
And I mean, I think of the other front man who's equally as good. He walked into the studio with Bowie, didn't he?
Oh, Mick Jagger. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we did Dancing in the Street as part of the Absolute Beginners sessions and the preparations for Live Aid. David
Yeah.
had called me and said, I've got this idea for this spin-off record for the charity concert, so please come and meet me. And I went and met him late at night in Soho with Mick Jagger, and we routine Dancing in the Street, and then did it as a kind of surprise ending to the Absolute Beginners session.
And as you say in your book, I mean, that dance, it is, it's a weird dance.
Well, it's a total cringe fest, but it doesn't matter, because it's like
the
spirit in which it was done. It's just they were just having fun, and they were mates, and they were doing it for charity. And good luck to them. It's brilliant that it gives everybody such a laugh still.
Yeah, exactly. So you were the band on the Last Resort chat show.
Yeah, Jonathan Ross's chat show, which was based, if anyone's ever seen, I'm sure they have, because of the internet these days, the David Letterman show, which was the late night New York chat show with the live band on it and all of it. It was based on that format pretty much exactly. Jonathan Ross was the host, and it was broadcast live every Saturday night. And I was in the second series, had a band run by Steve Naive from Elvis Costello's band and drummer. That was playing live in the studio to whoever the guest was that week, and we played with some incredible people, Roy Orbison and Was Not Was, and I mean just all kinds of people came in, and so we the last show of the series was Paul McCartney's first live TV that he'd done in 20 years, and he came in to the studio in the morning. And we just played with them all day. Just casually played with them all day.
Yeah, how was that? How did you find him as a musician?
Well, he's obviously, he's Paul McCartney. He's completely brilliant. But and that was exciting for me because I then got asked to work with him after that. But that didn't work out quite as as we might have hoped. But it was still a sort of landmark, red letter day to get asked to play with Paul McCartney.
Exactly. And I've heard stories. He walks in a room and everyone knows he's walked in the room. Is there an aura about him?
All these people who are household globally famous, and I've met a few of them, a good number of them, and I've worked with some of them. And that's always the case, isn't it? It's just a sort of, whether it's something they possess or whether it's more likely it's something the world thinks about them. So that whenever they appear, the atmosphere changes because everybody thinks, "Oh my God, it's Paul McCartney!"
Because he's always a Beatle, isn't he? Everywhere he goes, yeah. And you met George Harrison as well.
I did meet George Harrison one time. Just had a drink with him at a pub. Again, it was a Last Resort related thing. He was, I don't know who was on that week, but George Harrison was in the audience, and so was John Peel. And they invited us to a pub next door, the band, to have a drink with them. So we just sat around and chatted.
Why not?
Yeah. Can't say it's a huge connection, but it was an evening of just a few beers.
And apparently he's not so quiet, is he? He can chat a lot, apparently.
Oh, it's great! What a lovely guy! I just thought he was a lovely guy, and I knew John Peel better than I knew him. I knew John Peel, I'd met him a number of times. So it was just interesting to hear their conversation,
Yeah, so a bit later you worked again with Bowie. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, I think after Live Aid and Absolute Beginners, I was just in his book of numbers somewhere, And so the next call I got from him was to do the Iggy Pop album, blah blah blah. Um, and he just called. I was in Wales recording with. I think I was recording with Alien Sex Fiend in Wales, producing that. And I got a call saying, "Would you come get on a plane and come out and play with Iggy Pop?" And of course, I was there like a shot.
Yeah.
And once again, a huge feather in the cap to kind of just make an album with Iggy Pop. And then I went on to tour to work the world with him over the next few years, and then another stint later in the 20 teens with him of 5 years. So extraordinary thing. Yeah, I mean, terrific. I mean, I was an Iggy Pop fan. I was a Bowie fan, and I was an Iggy Pop fan too. And it's a brilliant opportunity to work with them both together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I have to ask you about the Status Quo story. I mean, literally in the book, I laughed out loud at that, and other moments in the book as well. Quo are always fooling around, aren't they?
Well, they're good. They're just Francis Rossi describes them as a Butlins band who got lucky. I mean, they're just down to earth geezers. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And I think you're referring to the story where in the studio we were in another studio next to them in Nassau in the Bahamas, and they were recording there. And I think I described it when they have a sort of microphone at bum level, which they just turn a recorder on and off for the brief seconds it takes to fart into it, and then play back the resulting compilation at the end of the day, which makes everyone collapse into fits of giggles. And that was them.
Brilliant. And you worked as a musical director on a project with Bjorn.
It's Bjorn Tagermoser, who's a high-end filmmaker, photographer for the likes of GQ and Vogue and things like that, and Marc Jacobs commercials. And he's just a sort of an incredible photographer, visual artist. And he's the guy who conceived this Gothic black and white film called Guitarists, which had a bit of a cult following. And he managed to get cameos in it from Grace Jones and Iggy Pop and Lemmy and Josh Homme and Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal and all these people. And I was the musical director of the live band that accompanied the movie. So it's behind a giant screen, which suddenly became transparent, and so you could see the band. And then the rest of the time it was rolling this Gothic tale of horror in black and white, which we played to in sync. And it ran for a few performances only, but it's got a bit of a cult following. And now there's a whisper there's going to be a documentary about it, because it was kind of cursed. The Bataclan shootings in Paris happened, 24 hours after the opening night with the Eagles of Death Metal. We were with them the night before. Then there was Brexit, which kind of kiboshed the whole thing, because it was a real collaboration between a bunch of Belgians and Dutch people and Brits. So that affected it really badly. I think there's a documentary being made about Guitarists and about the making of it, and I'm hoping that will give it a bit of a resurrection, or actually, tell the story of the production in itself, which is interesting.
Yeah, that sounds great. Iggy Pop 2, as I've written here, with the Foo Fighters.
I got a call after Ron and Scott from the Stooges had passed. I got a call from Iggy's manager saying, "Look, Iggy's going out again next year. Would you like to put a band together for him again?" Which is a huge gift, after all those years, looking back on the first time around with Iggy, thinking, well, we were young, and, there was all kinds of tensions in the band, and, my guitar sound was crap, and I didn't know what I was doing. Then to get asked again, 20 odd years later, was a real thrill to go and get it right, when we've all calmed down, we're all a little bit older, we know a bit more about what we're doing, and we can all make it great. And it was, I was really proud of the band I put together for him. And the first gig was going to be opening for the Foo Fighters at Wembley Stadium. It didn't happen that way because Dave Grohl fell off a stage in Gothenburg, and
I remember that.
he was he was like in plaster for weeks. And so we ended up just dribbling into the Iggy thing at a festival in Utrecht, and then carrying on doing European festivals, and then going to Australia and South America and all around the world and everything. But we did end up playing with the Foo Fighters at Milton Keynes Bowl a year later, I think, or months later,
Yeah.
which was a lovely experience. And I think Grohl was still in a cast at that point, actually, hobbling about. But
Wow.
yeah, yeah. But and we did a great stint between 2014, 2019 with Iggy around the world. Really, he's since the first time round when we played a fish restaurant in Santa Barbara or something. His career has gone from strength to strength, and he's become a legend. So he's now a legendary status performer, which
Yeah.
means everything's easier. Everything's really laid on well and looked after well. Technically, it's excellent, and it just was brilliant to have that 5-year stint with him late in our careers. It was just a wonderful gift.
Okay. As a guitarist, give me your top 5 guitarists and why.
Oh my goodness, that's so Jesus. I
Sorry.
mean, I tend to not like flashier guitarists, because I suppose it's because what I identify with as a band leader and somebody who's played with a lot of singers, I really like to support the arrangement, and I'm about the songs really. And so guitarists who do that impressed me a lot. Like Joni Mitchell, like Paul Barrere from Little Feat, Malcolm Young from AC/DC. They're kind of more, they're less the obvious guitar heroes. When I was growing up, I did copy Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, the kind of usuals, really.
Yeah.
But when I got older, I started to really listen to what some of the better guitarists did. Even people like Neil Young, what they do is so special because it really makes magic behind the songs. So I'm not
Yeah.
really interested in the shredders and tappers. It doesn't really interest me. Keith Richard, I love too.
Yeah.
It's not about technique for me. It's about music and what they're saying with it, and that's
Yeah.
much more important. So there's a wide spectrum of musicians between the technical end, and there's a lot of people who follow music and think it's some sort of competitive sport, and it really isn't. And there's the other end is people who are technically quite limited, but what they do is so special despite
Yeah.
that. And that's where I prefer that end of the
That's where
spectrum.
you are. Yeah.
It's kind of, with me, I'm sort of in the middle, because technically I'm not at all, I'm not half bad, but it's just about how you experience music and what that says to you.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. I mean, if you go right off the other end of the deep end, the technical end, I can listen to Paco de Lucia play flamenco, and it really gets me, again, because he's one of the very few who is the whole package, the technical virtuosity and the incredible soulfulness of it. So
Yeah.
that's the high end of guitar that I ever listen to, is Paco de Lucia. And the
Yeah.
low end is something like Neil Young or Mark Bolan, where I just love the way they slash at the guitar,
Yeah.
make me feel something.
Yeah. It is all about feel in the end, isn't it?
Well,
Um,
some people don't think that. It's about drummers too. I love listening to drummers, and I'm a John Bonham, Ringo kind of guy.
yeah.
And
Play for the songs.
Levon Helm and Richie from Little Feat,
Yeah.
and that's that kind of end of it. But again, you go in a poll and you see, who's your favorite drummer? Neil Peart. Well, from Rush. To me,
Yeah.
that is like, yeah, he's a technical drummer, but it's
Yeah.
like listening to paint dry to me. It doesn't really move me. Whereas you
Yeah.
watch Clyde Stubblefield from James Brown's band, he's only got to sit down and play a beat, and you're up and dancing. You can't help it. It's like, so, and that's what music's
Yeah.
about to me.
Absolutely. Great answer. Is there anyone you haven't worked with in the business who you
Well,
like to
I
work with?
kind of had Van Morrison on my bucket list, but the number of friends that I have who have worked alongside him meant that perhaps it's not such an enviable thing on a personal level. But I would have liked to work with him, just because I admire him, so much.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have made a better fist of working with Paul McCartney. I think that was kind of unfinished business. I think we could have been really good musically.
Yeah.
And I did some recording with him, and that could have been a nice thing. It just didn't. Didn't kick off, for one thing or one reason
Yeah.
or another.
Sure.
The personal chemistry wasn't right at the time.
Yeah.
My immaturity, his lack of patience. I don't know what it was, but it was like something didn't quite click.
Yeah. Yeah. What tips would you give aspiring musicians, singers, artists?
Just do it. I mean, you've got to say yes to everything. You've got to want to do it, and I think learn to copy things as well. I mean, I still get gigs where I'm about to tour with Carlos Alomar in November, with a band of Bowie sort of alumni, including George Murray, from the mid Bowie period. And it's a great honor to work with them. But in order to do that, I'm actually playing the role in the band. And some of the parts I'm learning are Robert Fripp, Adrian Belew guitar parts from David Bowie records. And they're some of the hardest things I've ever had to learn. They're really hard. But it's a really good exercise for me to learn them quite forensically and then be myself. But it's quite good. Copy things, steal things.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I was learning to play guitars. I just used to play records till they wore out and try and learn what was there and how to copy it. And then you fold that into your own playing.
I mean, I love the quotes here from Bowie. Kevin does what I pretend to do. Kevin is a proper musician. From David Bowie. How great is that?
It's a pretty nice. There's a video clip of him saying that. I took it from a video clip from a Tin Machine rehearsal where he was answering a question about why I was there, kind of thing, from MTV or something. But what a lovely thing to say, and typical of him to be so nice. He knew how to. Maybe in the early days, I don't know. I just read Susie Ronson's book about these 70s, early 70s Bowie, because she was like the fly on the wall, really there. And
I've read that.
And I'm sure he's a person who grew up, around musicians, and he may not have been the easiest going guy, but by the time I got to him, he knew how to look after people, and I think his reading our names out at Live Aid off the stage was a similar kind of thing. He just knew how to pay people back, and he just thought, well, I'm going to give them this because, and that was really generous of him, really nice.
Yeah, and
of course he meant it. Of course, it's all true.
Yeah. And in your book, he said he got the names of the backing singers wrong, and he was mortified.
He messed up. He messed up, particularly Tessa Niles. He just stumbled over Helene Springs and Tessa Niles' names and sort of molded them into one. He just got, and he fluffed it, and it was, he was really upset. He was really apologetic because he knew that would open doors for us all.
Yeah.
He knew
That's very nice, though, isn't it?
Really nice. Yeah, he didn't have to do that. And same with Tin Machine. I wasn't an official member of Tin Machine. I was a kind of fifth member. So I did the first tour, I did the first album. I was asked to do the second tour and album. I was doing something else and didn't follow that I was producing. But all that time he said, oh yeah, he came to me and said, well, I want the band to be the four because it's a stronger image and all this. Okay, fine. But then he always checked me and introduced me properly and included me sometimes. And it was always really nice like that.
Yeah, that's really nice. So you started in Orpington, is that right?
Yeah.
Your schools were in Orpington, St. Olave's Grammar School?
Yeah. Do you know that area? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bowie was from Beckenham, wasn't he? And Bromley and Beckenham, Brixton. So, we were all sort of south East London type of people.
And he has a blue plaque above, it's a restaurant now. It was the old 3 Tons pub, wasn't it?
Oh, the 3 Tons was around when I was kicking around as a musician.
Yeah.
Teens, I remember the 3 Tons. Yeah.
Do you?
And I actually, it's not. Is it in my book? Yeah, I think it is. But that my first guitar teacher was Roger Ferris, who was the guitarist in the Conrads, and I never knew that even after Bowie, until Bowie died. I never knew that Roger Ferris was in the Conrads because I haven't been I'm not. I was a Bowie fan, but I wasn't a forensic digger of every single thing, every fact, going back forever. But it was like Roger Ferris was in a folk group with my mother and showed me the first chords on the guitar. And at that same time, Roger was the guitarist in the Conrads where Bowie played sax, or young David Jones. I talked to Roger on the phone actually reasonably recently after the book came out. I looked him up and found him. He lives in Wales, and I called him. And we had a nice chat. He said, well, I didn't know David Bowie. I knew David Jones, he said.
David Jones.
Yeah. But what a lovely coincidence, because we didn't live far from each other. We didn't grow up far from each other.
Yeah.
These connections were there even then,
Yeah. Turn up on time, reasonably sober, and smelling good. I mean, that's one of my favorite quotes from your book.
Yeah, well, I put some cheeky things in there. You've got to make it readable, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Really good. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
That's all right.
Anyway, it's been
That's all right.
lovely to talk to you as well. And I hope
Really
we get to
nice.
meet sometime.
Yeah.
Come along to the Carlos Alomar. We're playing
Where's
throughout
that?
November.
Yeah.
I think there's a date in late November at the Barbican.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to be a nice thing. Yeah.
At the Barbican. I'll look out for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time.
Okay, Steve. Nice to meet you.
Been a pleasure.
See ya.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was my interview with Kevin Armstrong. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to read the book that I mentioned during the interview, book he's written, it's called Absolute Beginner by Kevin Armstrong. So yeah, check that out. And if I could ask you something, if you could please subscribe to my channel, that really helps me get the best guests onto the show. So thanks for listening and watching.